Hello students, today we are going to talk about average speed and velocity. So we read in our last lecture about distance and displacement. Now we did speak about then when something moves from point A to point B, the line joining them, the length of the line is the actual distance. Now what is speed? Let's say there is a taxi moving from point A to point B, and actually the taxi goes through another point C and then finally goes to B, and this is a straight line A to C and C to B. So the distance traveled was 5 kilometers here and 2 kilometers here, and the total time it took is, let's say, 7 minutes. Okay, so the time it took for that taxi to go from A to B via C is 7 minutes. Just okay. So what is this speed? Speed, which we can also say as average speed, we'll talk it AV dot, it is average speed, is equal to total distance divided by total time. In this case, it is total distance is, we are not talking about displacement, we are talking about distance. Actual distance traveled by this cab is 5 kilometer and 2 kilometer, which is 7 kilometers. 7 kilometers divided by 7 minutes, and that will become 1 kilometer per minute. We can then convert into meters per second or kilometers per hour. Those the standard definition or standard units for speed. Standard units will be meters per second or kilometer per hour. So what we have learned is that average speed of any object is the total distance traveled by that object divided by the total time it took for that object to travel that distance. Now we also have to understand that when this cab was moving or taxi was moving from A to C and C to B, we are assuming that it could be same speed it is going, or the speed was changing at different point of time. But when we are saying average, we are ignoring the fact whether initially it was moving very fast and then it slowed down, or maybe stopped in between and then moved very fast. We are ignoring all this because what we are interested in average speed is total distance divided by total time. Now if you have to look at the speed at a particular instant, let's say when it was somewhere in midway here, then we will have to look at very small distance around this point and then look at what was the speed between very small distance around that point, so that we know what was the speed of this taxi at this point of time. So maybe it was that time it covered in 1 second, maybe 0.1 kilometer, and then we'll look at 0.1 kilometer per second was the speed at this point of time. Now another term which is important is called velocity. VELOCITY. Now velocity is same as speed, but it also has a direction, and that is why it is called vector. So speed in a particular direction, both the magnitude of the speed and the direction, is called velocity. So we can say that the cab, let's say at this point in time moving, and if this direction is east, we are just saying that, so the cab is moving at this particular point of time, let's say 50 kilometers per hour towards east at this specific time. It could be changing or it could be same throughout, but what we are saying, velocity is 50 kilometers per hour in east direction, and again east, exactly the exact directions are given to define velocity. So we learned two things, that there is a average speed and velocity.